Hey everyone, welcome to the ERPodcast. Today is our 6th episode. Today we're going to be talking about superhero movies like Batman v Superman, the recent Comic Con Fan X in Salt Lake that we went to, some old school and new video game movies, and then certain video games that are coming out shortly that we are excited about.
Movie podcast, kind of. So we went to see Batman vs. Superman, which we're a bunch of comic book nerds. And we were upset, just like the rest of the internet, with how it actually was portrayed. Considering there is a opening for... The opener is Batman's origin story.
Well, that's been on screen like 400 times now.
Yeah, exactly. We've done it about 1 billion times. And
right.
I have a feeling like, could this be the curve? Like, could this be the downward spiral that a lot of people have been saying with the superhero movies that are coming out?
Could be. I mean, I know that's been talked about forever. It was, I think that started to float around once the first run of Spider-Man. I think like when Spider-Man 3 came out, people are like, oh, everyone's going to get tired of superhero movies. Right. Like, how many of these are they going to make?
Right.
And now they're the highest charting movie. Well, I mean, Star Wars is, of course, now, but they're like some of the highest charting movies to ever come out. I think Avengers had the highest title for years, box office sales. And I don't know. It could be. I don't think so, just because Batman v Superman isn't doing great. I mean, it actually is doing well. I just did see a thing that they hit like 690 million or something, so it beat out the last Superman movie. It's just my favorite part was the VIP seats that we purchased to watch the movie.
Yes. So if you're gonna see this terrible ass movie, find yourself an Alamo or find yourself a basically any kind of place that serves liquor and in big seats. Where we had these awesome seats that overlooked the rest of the peasants. And
the pleb seats.
The pleb seats.
Yeah.
And for $2 extra, we had bottle service, kinda, and it was great for that part, anyways. But
yeah,
I don't see. I see them. You see Iron Man 3, which had the lowest rating out of all the Iron Mans. Avengers did pretty good, but I feel like they're going to run that into the ground.
You think they're going to run Avengers into the ground?
I think that they're going to fuck up at some point. They've done a really good job casting. They've done a really good job storyline-wise. They kind of keep to it to a certain extent with, how movies are. They kind of take liberties. But
right.
The overall experience, I feel, is going to kind of diminish, and people are going to be like, oh great, there's another Superman movie coming out. That's how I felt with Man of Steel, and I have yet to see the full movie.
And you don't think that thought is just biased because you don't like DC comics and their iterations? Because like you say, oh, there's another Superman movie,
right?
But they could make another Avengers. I know they already are. I don't know what the subtitle is or the subname of it is, but Avengers 3, and it's going to be huge. Just like, some of them aren't as good, Green Lantern, but most of them are really high rated and they're really popular. And if you look at other series like Star Wars or even the new Star Trek movies and stuff, right, those are old. Like, those series are, I don't know what Star Trek was started in, like, what, the 60s?
65,
yeah, so,
I think.
Yeah, so I mean they're over 50 years old and they're still huge. And Star Wars just had its 7th. Actually, I think it's today that the Blu-ray and DVD come out of Star Wars Episode 7. So I don't know if they're gonna just diminish because people love this type of shit. There's always gonna be room for like the fantasy stuff, like the superhero, not like high fantasy, but I mean I don't know. Do you think it's just stemming because I know you just don't like DC comics?
Because I have a ungodly hatred for DC.
Yeah.
I just see how movies go, and I feel like movie companies will pump out movies as much as they can. I worry that it'll have sequel problems. And just like pretty much every other movie, They'll do a couple sequels, and then eventually the main actor, whoever's playing, will get tired of it. Like X-Men, for example. What's his name? Not Russell Crowe, but that was coming to mind. But the guy that plays as Wolverine, he's done. The next Wolverine movie will be his last movie, and then he's done. He's not going to be Wolverine anymore. I feel like the casting for that is going to be the biggest issue. Because eventually those actors are not going to want to play superhero movies anymore.
The person you're looking for is a one Hugh Jackman?
Hugh Jackman. There you go. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes. So I think that that's going to be the problem that Marvel... Currently, Marvel's hitting everything out of the park. Marvel's doing a really good job with everything. However...
You have to even give them credit for them, the fans of the first Spider-Mans with Tobey Maguire are 50-50. People liked them because it was the first kind of good representation of a Superman, or superhero movie. And then the other half is like, no, Tobey Maguire sucks. Those were shitty movies, etc., whatever. But they were box office hits. They're still hits. I still like them. But then Marvel took Spider-Man, and then which they had their hands on that first run, those first three.
Right.
And then they started the Amazing Spider-Man storyline or archetype, and those are even bigger. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I know you're saying, like, actors and actresses might get tired of playing certain roles or might just plain get too old to be playing those type of roles. But if you look at, like, the current status of what they're already doing, they can take those other archetypes, which had, like, the Amazing Spider-Man has nobody in it that was in the original 3 runs in the early 2000s, and they're massively popular as well. So you don't think like they could just so we have the Iron Man origin story, the one that we've been going on, my favorite one, Tony Stark and everything. Right. But I know there's a bunch of different archetypes. You don't think they could just pick one of those, do it up really nicely, and then have somebody else, even though RDJ was born to be Tony Stark, they could just get a new cast and go with a different storyline? You don't think that's something that's going to keep them going?
Well, like my love of Deadpool, I thought Ryan Reynolds was an awesome cast. I thought he should be casted for it. With my love, I want to see him do it constantly. I want to see him put 10 movies out as Deadpool. Do you feel like your love for Robert Downey Jr. and him being Iron Man, because I feel like he pulls off that Tony Stark persona really well, do you feel like you even want to watch an Iron Man that doesn't have him as Iron Man?
No.
That's how I got stuck. Like, because I really liked the first 2 Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire. The third one was fucking acid trip. But I liked the first 2. I liked him as Spider-Man. I didn't like what they did with make him, like, jerk off spiderweb coming out of his wrist. That was weird. But whatever. Like I said, movies take their own liberties.
Sure.
Would you watch
you ever
another
read
Iron
the
Man?
Lord of the Rings books? I mean, they're not even close to the movie.
Exactly.
I mean, they're close, but they're missing. Unlike Harry Potter
there's
and all
there's
so much missing.
There's
or
so much
to...
detail and so much, like, I'm not even talking about, but just, so you're a huge, we'll take Harry Potter, for example. You're a huge Harry Potter fan. When you watch the first Harry Potter, I mean, you're a giant Harry Potter nerd.
Right.
When you watched the first Harry Potter, did you feel those kids and the actors that portrayed them, do you feel like they fit the role?
Absolutely.
So if you saw another Harry Potter movie that maybe wasn't going on, it was kind of like a tangent, like Harry Potter went to some other thing and they're talking about the creatures he saw there or whatever, but it had a different cast. Could you watch it, and would you be okay with watching that?
It's funny that you use my Harry Potter fandom for that, because that's exactly what they're doing. They did the first
that's why I said
8 movies, and then now they have the book, which when I was in Barnes & Noble a couple weeks ago, I saw the big display for the new book coming out, and it's Harry Potter, the Fantastic Beasts, and Where to Find Them. I already have that book, but they're doing a new novel, or J.K. Rowling did a new novel being based around like the movie. More the book I already have is more of like an encyclopedia of the animals and the beasts and stuff. And I'm interested in it, but I don't care. I have all the books, I have all the hardbacks, I have all the illustrateds. I've seen all the movies, and I've got all those, and I'm good. That's my little Harry Potter world. Don't fuck with it. Just leave it alone. It's perfectly fine.
Right.
I saw the trailer for the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and it's sweet. I don't know. I don't care.
You don't
I'll probably
care.
watch it at some point, but it's not like, oh my god, Harry Potter 5 is coming out. I got to get midnight tickets and go. Like, no.
That's what I feel is going to happen to superhero movies. I feel like
Okay.
I've fallen in love with these characters. Once these characters are done playing, I don't care to watch them again. And that's kind of what happened to superhero movies. A bunch of superhero movies came out in the early 2000s, and then they fell off the face of the planet. Nobody was watching them anymore. And then they kind of, a new group of kids started watching these movies. And granted, the way they came back now is much more adult, especially with like the Dark Knight and stuff like that. That's a very adult version of Batman, considering most people think like Batman's just a cartoon,
Right.
which they're sorely mistaken.
I think that's not the second one with Heath Ledger,
Yeah,
then the Joker. I think that surprised a lot of people
that it
that
was
weren't
that
ready
dark.
for it. That were like, oh, we're gonna go see a superhero movie. I'm taking my 5-year-old, and it's like this mass murdering psychopath that's like
Sure.
genuinely scary to
Insane.
watch, and it's like, oh,
he's chaotic, and that's how Joker is supposed to be. That's how I
Right.
perceive him. I know there's many different Jokers, but that's how I want the Joker to be. As a villain, he's just insane. You don't know if he's actually got a bomb that's going to blow up the city, but he's just insane enough to do it. But chances are he doesn't have that. He's just screwing with your head. I love that.
right.
That's why I couldn't watch another Batman with a different Joker because of the way he played the Joker for that movie was so good. I don't think I like
That
another Joker.
The performance was spot on to your mental visualization of who the Joker character should be.
Yes.
That is the best. Now you no longer care.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how it is with Harry Potter. Like Hermione and Harry and stuff. Those, like, when I read them when I was a lot younger, when I first read them through, and then I watched the first movie, it was like that is how my brain thought they would be. Like
Right.
that's how I thought the cast would be and stuff.
It's weird
So
that you say that from someone who I love the Harry Potter books. Granted, I did not read them when you guys read them. I read them when I was little,
Right.
and I didn't see the movies till I started hanging out with you guys.
Right.
I absolutely thought that the movies were spot on with how I viewed the character. I agree, and that's coming from someone who doesn't have that much of a fan base into that particular type of
Right.
you know.
Well, I mean, the whole reason bringing up like where you brought up the Harry Potter thing is because I am a huge fan of it and stuff like that. Is that the movies do miss a ton, and you know I've reread the series multiple times,
Right.
and they move stuff around. You know, I know this won't mean anything to you, but like Ron starts playing Quidditch on the Gryffindor team in the 5th book.
Right.
Well, that doesn't happen till the 6th movie. So it's like the glaring parts of books are moved and stuff like that.
It's big chunks.
They're gonna have to do that for like creative freedom of the movie to make them
Right.
flow better, whatever. But let me ask you, that's just, even though I agree with you mostly on, you know, the exchange of casts and stuff like that. I mean, there's been TV shows and stuff where they'll like do 2 seasons and then they'll come back with a new lead actor at playing somebody, and it's like, get the fuck out of here! I'm not watching
Perfect
this.
example is that 70s show and that 80s show. That 80s show fell on its face because it was not
Yeah.
the same cast.
It was the same people, yeah.
Exactly.
I think that's kind of, you know, partially why I don't care for Doctor Who. I know when we were at Comic-Con last week, there's Doctor Who shit everywhere, and I have legitimately, and I know we were talking to Dave about this, and me and you were talking about it, and even AJ and everybody, is we've given Doctor Who a legitimate try. And I think that's part for me. It's because like every 2 seasons or 3 seasons, they get a new Doctor Who, and now there's fucking 17 of them, and it's like,
Right.
well, you know, I don't know. It's a big argument because like James Bond, I like James Bond, and they change like every 2 movies. Bond is somebody else,
Oh, sure.
you know. But for the sake of argument, even though I agree with you mostly on if they change cast around and stuff, just fuck off. I don't want to watch it. Are you a fan of Ocean's 11?
I am.
The movie.
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
I am a huge fan of the Ocean's movie. I love the casting. I think it's incredible. I love the, you know, con artisty stuff. That movie originally came out in 1960.
Correct.
Right. So this is a full-on remake, just with, you know, better, you know, the casinos are more up to date and all that shit.
Right.
And they completely 100% different cast. Not a single person in the 60 film was in this one. And I love it. I love all of them, even number 12, which people didn't like. All of them. So
That goes into my that goes into like the generation thing I was talking about. Like you weren't around for the original movie, so you don't have a point of reference. You don't have that thing unless like I have some friends that only like the older movies. They don't like the remakes because that's what their parents showed them.
right.
With certain movies having some space, such as Star Wars. I really like Seven, and granted, there's no remake, but you can make a lot of connections between A New Hope and Seven. They're very similar, kind of.
Oh
Um,
yeah, they're extremely. It's a giant Death Star that destroys planets,
oh sure. It's just
it's the
it's the
same
Death Star,
thing.
but as a planet. Like,
And it's
that's what it
some
is.
girl, Ray, instead of Luke, that doesn't know they have force powers and blah blah blah. It's the
Right.
same movie.
Right, it's the same movie.
It's the same shit.
Uh,
Uh, but everyone loves it. I love it. I just watched it the other day, and it's awesome. Still
it's a great
awesome.
movie. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
I love it.
But it's genuinely a copy of A New Hope with new characters and new shiny digital CGI that they didn't have in what 71 or 73
yeah, they
when the
weren't
first one
flying
when New Hope came out.
sticks around.
Yeah, which that's part of what a lot of Star Wars fans like is that old school, like what Lucas was able to do with the limited technology that they were using to film those first Star Wars to give it that like the Battle of Hoth and Endor and stuff, where it just is like, oh my God, there's this whole ice planet and they're flying all over the place. But in reality, they did it with a fake studio that they built. Like
Right.
that's pretty sweet. But I mean, back kind of we're getting just into fandom of Harry Potter and Star Wars. But if you look, I mean, if what we were talking about you thinking the superhero movies are going to burn out, my real kind of solid answer is I don't think they will, just because for a couple reasons. There's a plethora of superheroes that don't have movies yet, and
Fair
they can
enough.
always be dug up. And not dug up, but like okay, well now there's going to be a War Machine movie.
Right.
He had a small part to play before he was Iron Patriot.
Do
Oh, we're gonna
believe
give him his
that's
own
going
movie.
to be a thing, but
Is there going to be a War Machine movie?
I I'm gonna say yes. I
Okay.
I remember reading something about that like that's a plan, uh, because supposedly there is no more Iron Man movies. There he will be in the next Avengers film and so on and so forth, but he will not be his own movie anymore. That's what I've
Right.
read. Whether or not they change that, it's miracles happen. But so
They might. They left it slightly open. I just actually watched the third one the other day, and he takes the arc reactor and chucks it in the ocean, and
right.
just all his suits blow up and all that stuff. But then after the end of the credits, I won't say it. Just go YouTube it or whatever. But it alludes to.
You can spoil it.
It was
I
basically
think it's
them
been
saying
long
like,
enough.
yeah, it's been forever. It was basically them saying, well, Iron Man is over because Tony Stark is done, but we're gonna put this in here just in case we want to make another one.
Sure.
You know,
See, that makes me
and
question where in the realm of the Avengers was Iron Man? Because if the
the
Avengers
first
are
Avengers
after Iron
was
Man,
between. No, the first Avengers movie was between Iron Man 2 and 3.
okay. So the
Yep.
second one is during the third.
But they're both, as far as I understand, they're both between. It goes Iron Man, Iron Man 2, Avengers, Avengers Age of Ultron, Iron Man 3.
Okay.
That's how I'm understanding it. Because when you watch number 3, he has like bad flashbacks about New York and being stuck to the wormhole and shit like that.
Mhm.
And people talk to him about like the aliens coming back or whatever.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna assume Age of Ultron was between 2 and 3 as well, just purely because of the end of Iron Man 3, where he blows up all his stuff and throws his arc reactor in the ocean.
Right.
So did he just poofed her back into Iron Man to come out for Age of Ultron, or no? So I'm gonna assume they're both in between.
Right. We recently went to Salt Lake City to go to one of the cons they have going on there, and that's it's Comic-Con. It's the world of nerds, and
It's
it's
a Comic-Con Fan X
Fan
experience. I
X.
believe
Yes,
that's
the
what it's
Fan
called.
X experience. So it's the Comic-Con got so big in Salt Lake City that they made a second one that was during earlier in the year. that was more about because Comic Con in Salt Lake City was so big that a lot of fans were kind of getting snuffed because they couldn't see their favorite, you know, people. So they made a second one and would have people come there. And we went. This is our first one. We go to E3 every year, so this was kind of something different. E3 is just purely games, where Comic Con's definitely more of fan bases such as Doctor Who or the Jurassic Park series or stuff like that. Movies and comics. That's the big thing, was movies and comics. There was some game stuff as well.
TV shows.
TV shows.
Yeah.
And they had Julian Anderson was there. We'll go with the big names, which was Julian Anderson and George Takei, which by far was the greatest thing I've seen so far. That man can talk.
His panel was
he's
definitely
fucking
the
poetic,
best part of that show.
is what he is. He's fucking poetic.
That was definitely the best part of the show, for sure, was the George Takei panel.
Yeah. Now, I do have a bone to pick, and the people that listen to this podcast that like Walking Dead are going to be pissed off at me, but fuck Norman Reedus. He didn't even show up for his fucking panel. The only panel I wanted to go to, there was 2 panels I wanted to go to. George Takei, and I wanted to go to Norman Reedus. And not because I like Walking Dead, because I don't. It's not. I like the comic, I don't like the show. I wanted to see Norman Reedus because I'm a huge Boondock Saints fan. I even like the second one, which most people are like, that movie's shit.
Yeah.
And he just didn't show up.
He was scheduled for, what was it, no, it was the Friday, so the second day of the show, he was scheduled for an hour-long panel at 12 o'clock. So we got to the show about 10 o'clock, I would say, 10 o'clock in the morning. And we're going to get ready to get in line for the panel and get our passes and everything. And we go and look at the panel board of the panelists that are going to be doing that today, just on the off chance, just to double check. And instead of Norman Reedus, it was going to be fucking Carl.
Carl was there. It was such bullshit. Yeah. Like, fuck Carl. Nobody likes Carl.
Nobody likes Carl.
Nobody likes Carl.
And everyone likes Norman Reedus. And he decided... Yeah, we might not want to give him too much shit just because something might have actually legitimately happened.
Yeah, I mean, if he got in a car crash or something, or like anything like that, like by all means, I'm an ass. So I'm just stating that. But if you just didn't show up,
he just decided not to show up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Julian Anderson was there. I think I just said that.
Yep.
And for those of you who are X-Files fans, you'll be gleefully, happy that she was there.
Yeah, I don't care about that because I think the X-Files sucks. The other biggest name that was going to be there was going to be Jeremy Renner, who, of course...
Fan mail. Blown out now.
You get yelled at. Jeremy Renner, of course, who is Hawkeye, and he was going to be having a 1-hour panel on Saturday, the day we were leaving the show.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided instead we were going to go to the show again anyways to see his panel, and on our way, X decided to open his... Comic-Con app on his phone and see that the panel had then been changed to a half an hour showing, which means his actual talk time would have been about 15 minutes.
Yes.
So we decided to skip that because it's a lot of work to get in and out of the con and parking and trains and all that stuff. So that was a pretty big disappointment for me, being a huge Avengers fan and not getting to see Jeremy Renner and him changing the panel from an hour to roughly 15 to 20 minutes.
It was a little ridiculous. I'll give it that.
Yeah. Other than that, the show was really fun. Lots of stuff. If you have the chance to go to a Comic-Con, fill your wallet up because there's an incredible amount of stuff to buy. Yes. Lots of very cool artists. That was one of my favorite parts.
The show floor, I would say that's... I don't know. I would say that's a good square mile, maybe?
No.
No?
No.
You know,
it's big.
Half mile?
No, not that big. But it
was pretty chunky. It was huge. Just imagine a mile and it was half that. But it was full of stuff you just couldn't buy unless you bought it on Amazon. Stuff that
even stuff that you can't get on Amazon.
Yeah.
Like
there was Artist Row, which was incredibly cool.
Yeah.
And then
that was my favorite part of the actual show floor.
Your sweet book that you got from one of the authors of Diablo.
No, he was one of the storyline artists for World of Warcraft.
Yes, there you go.
Worked for Blizzard. Yeah, I'll be starting that book soon, so I'm really excited for that. But yeah, if you get the chance to load your wallet up, there's an incredible amount of stuff you can purchase. Lots of very cool nerd stuff that you can't really find a lot of places. Um, Definitely find a con that's near you that's big. I know Salt Lakes is fairly large. San Diego, of course, is the granddaddy. But if you have a con or anything like that around you, definitely check it out at least once. I would suggest driving, not flying to it. I flew to this one, and there was a lot of stuff I wish I could have bought that I could not fly home with me. That was kind of a bummer.
That was a bummer.
Like a lot of the art, those art pieces that you got.
It's such a hard
I wish
thing.
I was able to get some of that stuff because
Yeah.
that's a one-off. You can't get that anywhere else.
Right.
And, yeah. So if you go to one, drive to it if you can, so you
Yeah.
can bring all your sweet loot home.
Yes. I was browsing Reddit today.
Mhm.
We're gonna transition here. I was browsing Reddit and I found this post that was a kid in our movies that was saying how much he loved the Mario Brothers movie that came out in. You looked it up and said '93. I know you
Yeah.
have an utter hatred for this movie. I
It's
absolutely
shit.
loved it.
It's so shit.
I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Ugh. Yeah.
I,
Most video game movie adaptations are garbage, and that's why people are leery of going to see them in the first place. There's a few that have stood out to become well-known franchises or generally well-recepted movies
basically
like or not Unreal, sorry, Resident Evil. Those have absolutely nothing to do with the game other than they share the same name.
yeah, pretty much.
But like the
I mean,
Resident
they're-
Evil
yeah.
have done
I
well.
would say Resident Evil 2, the second movie, was
Mm-hmm.
basically Resident Evil Nemesis up until the end.
Yeah.
It followed
Yeah,
the
that
game
was.
pretty damn well, and then the rest of them are kind of just crazy, insane ideas that happen in the Resident Evil universe.
Well, like I don't know which movie. I think maybe the third one where they go to Vegas and it's all covered in like sand and it's like Mad Max
Yeah.
style.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with any of the video games at
No,
all.
not at all.
No.
Not at all.
But I mean, they share Umbrella Corp and some of the names and some of the locales are similar.
What are
but
your
real,
feelings? I bring up the Super Mario Brothers just because that's like I am a huge John Leguizamo fan, and
Mhm.
I forgot the bigger dude. He's dead now, R.I.P. But I'm a
Rip.
huge fan of him as well. I think it's an interesting take on Mario. What do you think of movies? And I say this because when we were watching Batman vs Superman, there was an advertisement for the new World of Warcraft movie.
Mhm.
And you are a massive World of Warcraft nerd. You play it all the time. You have a tattoo of it on your wrist.
Right.
Are you excited for
I-
that with the chance of it being shitty just like most of every
Well-
other movie that has to do with video games ever made?
I am very excited for it. They've been talking about a live action WoW movie forever. There is always that distaste or bad taste in my mouth about like video game movies. Super Mario Bros. Is garbage, and Doom was garbage.
Doom
Like,
was trash. I'll give you that. Doom
Mortal
was
Kombat
trash.
movies are garbage. They're just generally shitty,
Whoa.
and it's
Soundtrack
really upsetting.
for Mortal Kombat was
Yeah, we're talking about the
incredible.
movie, not the soundtrack. It's usually quite upsetting to the gaming community because they go, "Man, I'm a huge Doom fan. I played all the Doom games.
Right,
I did
right.
speed runs, blah blah blah. I found all the secrets." And then they're like, "Oh, sweet, a Doom movie's coming out with Dwayne the Rock Johnson. Oh my God, it's fucking awful.
Yeah,
It's a
was-
piece of shit."
was
And it's like, well, it just
horrid.
like it takes the validity of the franchise, of the gaming franchise, and just whacks off a piece of it right there. Just
much,
clunk.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
here's some validity. We're gonna take that away because we made this piece of shit movie. So the World of Warcraft movie, that's gonna be, I feel like, the biggest test for the video game transferred into movie ideal. Because while Mortal Kombat is huge, a lot of people like it. A lot of people like Doom.
right.
WoW is way bigger than either of those.
WoW
and it
has one of the biggest fan bases in. the
Yeah, it has
gaming
one of the
community.
biggest fan bases in the world.
Right.
Yeah, as far as like just player count and lore and like everything. I mean, you can buy there's World of Warcraft books all over the place of stories and all that type of stuff. So, it's going to be a test. And the thing with the World of Warcraft movie, as I said, I think I mentioned this to you after we saw the preview, is like people are so into this game, and it's been around for so long. I think it launched in 2004.
Right.
So it's been around for so long. It's so huge. It's so popular. Like, millions of people play it every day.
Sure.
That if they get anything wrong lore-wise, they're going to get trashed on.
You don't think though that movie has such a high weighting, like the Halo movie? I have been waiting forever. I love the Halo storyline. Why I'm not a big fan of the recent games. Was a big fan of Halo 2. I love the storylines. Read all the books. I've been waiting for the Halo movie forever. Whether or not I think it's actually been canceled, but
Probably it's been
I
canceled
feel
like 4
like
times.
with WoW, there's so many people because there's like at the max, what was it, 16 million, 18 million people playing? Registered users?
I think its peak so far was Wrath of the Lich King expansion. And I want to say it was between 12 and 13 million concurrent subscribers. I think that was the highest point. And then it kind of dropped down with Cataclysm, because Cataclysm was a piece of shit expansion. And then Mists of Pandaria went up a little bit. And then Warlords of Draenor brought it up a little bit more. But the game fluctuates. It goes way up when a X-Pack comes out, and then it comes back down, and way back down.
So there's so many people that have played this game, that love the game. There's people that have gotten married because of the game. The game itself, there's touched a lot of people. There's a story I read where I think it was a girl who had died, and she was a big WoW player, and WoW put her in the game. Stuff like that. I know Captain Phil is in the game now. It's a huge game, and it means a lot to a lot of people. Not my cup of tea, but I know that there's a loyal fan base there. I feel like all those people that are going to watch this movie because it's WoW are going to have a problem with it and are going to tear it apart purely because it's not following what they expected the movie to be. Whether or not it's actually going to be a good, it's very similar to how comic book nerds look at superhero movies. It's the same way. I think that with WoW, if they do just a couple things that have to be done because it's a movie, they can't do it because, various reasons. It's, the movie's only going to be 2 hours or whatever, and they have to shorten things up. I feel like that's going to, unless they just take the WoW universe and make something completely new with it. I think that's the only way where they're going to get away with being a WoW movie and not upsetting all the people that are going to go watch it.
See, I think I'm going to say I disagree with you basically 100% on if they make a new story.
Really?
Not that you're incorrect, but to me, I know I have a generalized idea of the lore and what happened in the game, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I haven't read a bunch of it or whatever, but I know what's going on. I know who Arthas is. I know who all these people are. I know what they do and all that.
Right.
And if I walked in with you guys and everybody getting ready to watch World of Warcraft the movie, the game I've been playing for 10 fucking years and spent over $1,000 on, and they come out and it starts out and it's not Garrosh Hellscream and it's not Sylvanas Windrunner, it's some fucking other person that no one's ever heard of, and they make up some story, that's gonna be, in my opinion, that's gonna be a massive failure. That's not what. Why would I want to? That's like you playing the new Uncharted game. Uncharted 4 is coming out soon, and you're like, oh, I'm a huge Uncharted fan. I love Nathan Drake. Blah 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 blah. And then they bring out they're like, okay, well, we're gonna make an Uncharted movie because the games are so successful.
Right.
But it's gonna be about him serving in the military. You're gonna be like, fuck you right off. I'm not watching this movie. Like,
no, I totally will.
And that's what I'm saying. There's stapled down characters in WoW. There's stapled down lore. Even like the dragons. And I don't know if you know this, but like the dragons in the game have names. They're kind of like in Skyrim. Those will be in the game, and the big war that they show between the orcs and the humans, and then when they come together to fight the Legion and all that stuff, that better be in there, and it better be correct, because if they make a bunch of bullshit, I think it's just gonna be a failure.
So basically,
massive failure.
You're not willing to give the movie a pass if they do excellent in storytelling, excellent in just the way it looks, but they fuck up the WoW lore.
No, no pass.
Okay, then no
pass. No, sir. No pass.
And see,
I don't see why that would be even
valid.
acceptable.
I feel that's valid because that's no, I agree with you. I
Then
agree.
they shouldn't even call it World of Warcraft. They
That's
should just call it Fantasy Movie 2.
that's how I felt about WoW. That's how I felt about Deadpool. Uh, the same deal. If they fuck this up, if they change one thing about him, I'm done with this movie. And
Right.
within certain things, I understand the movie's going to change a couple things, but the general idea of how that movie is shot, if they change what WoW means to you and what WoW's storyline is, just enough to make it not congruent, you're done with it. You just
No, they for the sake of the movie, like we were talking about earlier, about them, like Harry Potter or whatever, where they take parts out or move parts around or whatever for the sake of being translated into a film. That's okay. That's fine.
but just don't make up
But
some
if
random bullshit.
but just don't make up some shit where
Right.
Sylvana Windrunner's not a night elf; she's a fucking orc captain. No,
Okay.
that's wrong. That's incorrect.
Right.
I'm not watching that. Fuck you.
Basically,
I think they can get away with
don't let 'em
melding the story.
Don't let him Yui Bowl the fucking film. That's what you're
Yeah.
trying to say.
Yeah, don't let Yui Bowl be by any of that because he ruined Far Cry twice.
He ruined Far Cry, but he did a really good job on fucking Postal, which was weird.
I didn't enjoy that film at all.
Postal.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well.
Anyway, no, I won't give it a pass. But I mean, I'm gonna go into the theater when it releases, expecting to see my favorite characters from the game come to life.
Brought to life.
And even though they're like, people say they're brought to life within the game and stuff, which is fine. But there's certain stuff, I mean, this won't make any sense to you. But like during the Wrath of the Lich King, the whole point is to kill the Lich King. That's the whole point of the expansion. Fight through his citadel and kill him.
Right.
Well, that's very self-explanatory. If they were to put that in the movie, what's going to happen? We got to kill the bad guy. We're the good guy. Blah. Right. But there was like, pieces of gear even like in that raid that was some. I can't even remember the name of the sword right now. But it was some big sword that you could get, and you would see characters with it or something. Be like, oh no, okay, perfect. The expansion beforehand, you had to kill Illidan.
Right.
The big green guy with the huge horns.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've seen him. He dropped the twin blades of Azeroth. The two, they're very obvious in the game when someone has them. They're his weapons.
Right.
So if they put stuff like that, not necessarily those weapons, but like stuff like that into the movie, that's what I am expecting, and that's what I hope is for the fans. Where you're not a fan of WoW, but you can go in and watch it with me and be like, yeah, that was a really cool fantasy style, movie like Lord of the Rings or something.
Correct.
And you will appreciate it for that. Where they will come out and say, oh, this is, a character will come on screen and he'll be blah blah blah, the Kingslayer. To me, in the game, was someone who had killed the Lich King.
Right.
So if they put little things like that for the real fans of the game, that's what'll make it for me.
Yeah, I agree. I will be seeing it, and like I said, I'm not a WoW fan. I played it, don't like it. I will see it because it looks very cool.
It does look
and
cool.
it looks really good so far. I've liked what they show, but again, I'm not a WoW fan, so I'm not going to notice discrepancies.
Right. That's what I'm saying. You'll go in and see it as like, man, this is a cool fantasy movie. There's orcs and demons and dragons and stuff.
Right.
That was pretty sweet. And it'll be hopefully well done, and the CG will be excellent from the previews and stuff. And I know Blizzard's quality. If you watch any of the release trailers for the expansions, they're sick.
Yes, I will agree.
I know they'll
I've
do a
seen
good
all
job
the
on
CG.
that.
They're very cool.
Yeah. So yeah, you'll be able to go in and see that was a cool movie. Yeah, that was really cool. And I'll think it's a cool movie, but hopefully they will put in those little details for the fans of the game that have spent hundreds of hours playing their game to be like, oh man, I remember that shoulder piece, or I remember that weapon, or that title, or that part in Dalaran or something, whatever. Yeah.
A nod to the character.
I'm very much looking forward to it.
So you just went and picked up Dark Souls 3, and you're a
Yes, I
huge
did
Dark Souls
today.
fan. I didn't get into Dark Souls. I had a roommate that played Dark Souls 2 religiously. And I love Bloodborne, which is kind of in the same realm, a little more linear. Do you think that game's going to be good? Do you think it's going to keep up with the hype? I know that a lot of people said that Dark Souls 2 wasn't as good as Dark Souls 1 or Demon Souls for that example. Like
Um, of course it's going to be good. What kind of question is that? It's a Dark Souls game. All of them are good. I think a lot of people forget that Demon Souls is part of the series, and it was the first one to come out. And I think the reason people disassociate Demon Souls is because it's called Demon Souls, and two, it was only available on the PlayStation 3,
right.
which at the time of it coming out, the PlayStation 3 was the least popular console out of the three current gen consoles.
Right.
So you either had the Wii had the crazy sales, and then the Xbox 360 was the most popular. Then you had the PlayStation 3, which was the least popular, and they released their first game on that system only. So I think it just kind of gets shoved under the rug.
Right.
But do I think Dark Souls 3 is going to be awesome? Yeah, of course it is. I'm going to have to go buy a new controller because I'm sure I'm going to break the one that's on my desk right now.
Yeah.
But, I think it's going to be great.
I don't mean it's going to be bad. I know that a lot of people made comparisons and they were like, okay, Demon Souls was better than Dark Souls. Dark Souls was better than Dark Souls 2. Do you think that it's the storyline in general? Do you think it's the gameplay? Like, people are just kind of getting tired of that, like, just hard as fuck game to beat? Like, they're just kind of getting tired of it? It just seems like all the fans of this series are experiencing kind of diminishing returns with this game. And you could say that a lot about any game that just has a really long lineage. Fuck it.
Lineage.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know necessarily where you're getting diminishing returns from. I mean, I understand why, but I don't know where you're getting that from. As far as your question, personally, I don't think people play Dark Souls for the story. The stories usually are
very muddled.
They're muddled. I mean, there's a general idea on like what
Right.
you're doing and why you're doing it, et cetera, et cetera. I liked the story of Dark Souls 2 a lot better than the first one.
Right.
But I don't feel like. I mean, I know I was talking to Sean the other night, and he's the one who reminded me that Dark Souls was coming out. Oh
Right.
shit, I gotta get it. I think I'm following suit with him. We don't play it for the story. I don't care about the story. I'll listen to it just so I know what's going on. I don't care. I'm playing it for the difficulty and for the realism of the game, and I'm also playing it because of the amount of creativity you find in the Dark Souls games, where there's a lot of RPGs that I really, really like, and they're very high rated, they're very well respected
Right.
titles. But you pick up a sword, and then 20 hours later you get a new sword, and then 20 hours later you get a new boots. And Dark Souls is not like that. It's not a loot grab game, but it's so meticulous on what how
very
you spec
cautious
your character.
how you spec everything.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Because you build wrong in the first half of the game, and you get to the second half of the game, you're fucked.
Right.
Like you just
Yeah.
you lose, or you have to cheat.
My roommate used to play. He would always lose his soul. He would just play with no soul.
Right.
Because he'd be like, it's a pain in the ass to try to get it back every fucking time, so I'll just play with no soul.
Right.
I think that game, the one thing that game has that is a huge deal to me as a gamer, is there's so many different ways to play. There's a guy who he plays with no armor. There's speed runs for it. There's all kind of crazy stuff, and the hidden little things, the little pieces that if you play the whole collection will come through, I think is genius, and it shows really good game making ability. Such as there's just hidden stuff. One of the guys that's in the main, I don't fucking remember his name, but he dies and he's in Dark Souls 2, and he's sitting by the fire, and he mentions something about being from this other area in the first game, and how he's technically not the same guy, but he is the same guy. Stuff like that. That's like kind of a nod to like, hey, if you played this game, you know what I'm talking about. He talks about going insane, which is something you have to do in the game to like, you have to
progress.
follow a certain path to get him to go insane, and he gives you a certain sword. And so in the second game, he starts talking about how he went insane and stuff like that. It's like, okay, I get this. If you've done that, I like hidden stuff like that. I think it's very cool.
That's a huge a huge proponent for me for the game is it feels, even though this one obviously is coming out, I think on the April 11th. It's like a week from now.
Right.
It's obviously current gen or next gen, and it's gonna look great. They always look great.
They look
The
fabulous.
graphics are always very good on them. The sound is always good. The combat.
The opening scene for Dark Souls 2, when you walk out right before you get your ass fisted by that giant knight, like you're overlooking the cliff face, it's beautiful. Yeah. It's absolutely beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Besides all that, like put that all aside, that it's the new one coming out in a week and it's gonna be great, the graphics, everything. One of the largest proponents for me is how much of an old school draw of old style RPGs that it gives you with a new face put on it. You can go on Steam right now, and there's actually one just came out that I have been trying out, Hyperlight something, and it's built like in an 8-bit type world, and it's kind of hard, but you can go on Steam or Xbox store, PlayStation store, whatever, and there's all sorts of old school RPGs you can buy, or games that are modeled after old school. But this one looks like a new one, but it has all those old school elements that real RPGs had. And what I mean by that is Dark Souls 2, when you first started up, you're in this like little foresty area and you got to go talk to the witches. Did you ever play that part?
I did not.
Okay. So you're like in this like little forest area. It's very obvious where you're supposed to go. You run in there, talk to the witches, and the game sort of starts. Well, outside of that is a little hidden pathway that goes underneath a waterfall, and you can kind of weasel your way down there. And there's a smooth stone. That's what you pick up, is a smooth stone.
Right.
I picked it up at first. I was like, the fuck? Okay, whatever. You don't have inventory space, so you could just, collect, hoard things.
Sure.
Picked it up and go on my way, blah, blah, blah. And, I don't know, it's maybe an hour into the game, maybe hour and a half if you like to play slow like I do. And you're walking around up on this tree branch, and there's a nest, an empty like bird's nest, like a huge one. And in your headphones it says, "Tweet, tweet, give me something smooth, or give me something shiny," or something like that.
Right.
And I never ever cared. I just was like, whatever. And on my last playthrough that I just did a couple weeks ago, I was like, oh, they're talking about that fucking rock. Ran all the way back, got the rock, take it, and they give you a decently rare, good starting weapon. The game tells you to do that nothing. It helps you not at all.
Right.
It's this obscure voice that needs this obscure hidden item that you were supposed to get if you found it 2 hours earlier.
Sure.
I love that. And I think that's why having that old school feel with the new fresh face and the silky smooth combat and the difficulty, I don't feel like people are getting diminishing returns. I feel like they're just getting the next great installment in the series they already like.
Fair enough. I'll go with that. That's fine. I feel that same way with a lot of games. So I get that. I just hear a lot of like, oh, well, Dark Souls 2 wasn't as good as Dark Souls 1. And that could just be because people are hard to please and they want to bitch about everything. But I feel it's a great game. I still feel like it's a great game. I don't particularly play them because I will break everything in my room. Because I don't have the patience. Bloodborne,
that's about all you can take is
Bloodborne. Dude, Bloodborne. We spent 4 hours on that stupid fucking opening. And oh my god, I wanted to break my PlayStation. Luckily I didn't.
What a lot of people, I was talking to Webb earlier, and he's kind of like you. He never liked the Souls games. Just no, fuck it, I don't want to play those. They're really difficult. They're more difficult than necessary, and they're just annoying.
Right.
And I was talking to him today, and he said, because I told him, I'm picking up Dark Souls 3. That's what I'm doing. Right. He goes, oh yeah, I actually started playing the Souls games. And he said at first they were really hard. They were really annoying. You just die all the fucking time. And I say, oh yeah, but how rewarding are they? And he's like, oh man, they're crazy. Like, you finally figure out a puzzle, or you finally down this fucking annoying boss, or like get past this pack of mobs that like is just kicking your ass, and you're like, yes, I did it. I accomplished this. I'm better than this. Versus a lot of games like Wolfenstein. Huge Wolfenstein fan. I know you are too.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not difficult.
No,
10 enemies pop up and you blow off all their heads and go on your merry way.
Right.
While that's entertaining and that's fun, it's not like some grand victory because you just shot a bunch of Nazis. You're like, yeah, well, they're just cannon fodder till I get to the boss.
Sure.
Dark Souls is not like that. Every single enemy can kill you very, very easily.
Sure.
And so it's
Fucking
the
pikemen, man.
sense of,
Fucking
oh yeah,
pikemen.
no, they'll shit on you. They'll two-shot you right at the beginning of the game.
Oh, sure.
So the sense of like accomplishment that you get from playing a Souls game, I think that brings a lot of gamers back to the series as well.
I will give you that. I feel like my point of reference is Bloodborne, so forgive me if I keep bringing it up.
But did you get that feeling when we were playing Bloodborne?
Oh, I fucking hate it. I was like, this game's such a piece of shit. I want to return it. Like, I'm so done with it. Like, I don't know why people like these types of games. And then I beat that first boss, because I remember coming up on it and being like, we couldn't get past the first fucking mob. How are we going to do this? And I remember beating that first boss, and it was like, oh my god. And it was so fulfilling and something that I don't get it in a lot of games anymore. So it was this, especially from a single player
That's
game.
it. Exactly, right there. Something I don't get from many games anymore, and it's just like, oh, like I did it. I beat this boss. I beat the game.
It's a very fresh thing with it, and it's frustrating, but it's not frustrating because it's cheap. It's not a cheap frustration. It's just hard. You know,
it's just hard.
Got
to
be paying
game.
attention. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that'll wrap it up for today. This has been a good cast, I feel.
Yeah. Be sure to check us out on Twitter, Facebook, our site, ERG,
YouTube,
ergaming.net. Definitely check us out. Stop by, leave us some comments. We put out different news and reviews articles every day or so. And we'll be back with a new cast in 2 weeks on Sunday.
Bye.